Daniel Vallis here from InformedChristians.com, a ministry devoted to discerning current events from a Christian perspective. Again, this is just a watch, not a prediction. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just showing you what has happened. And a lot has been happening. We've been looking around the events surrounding the days of Noah, particularly the date associated when he left the ark, the 27th of Sivan, and also the anniversary of when the rainbow was given. We've been examining different signals that the enemy has been looking around this date too, and a lot of signaling has been pointing to that date and even specific events with that, but they've been largely signaling that the time is about to come where Apollyon, the destroyer and war, is about to come onto the scene. And prophetically, from a Bible perspective, we see the events lining up for that exactly too. And in current events, we could see a lot of the major players already in position for that as well. It comes as no surprise, but when we look at the signals that Satan is giving to his disciples, he's really driving home the point that they should be ready right now because it's about to come onto the scene. And we are keeping our eye on the enemy movement to see what they're up to. But we've also been examining some of the celestial signs that have been pointing to this same time period, the days of Noah. Now, we've been looking at some of the specific days associated with Noah, and the Bible records 3 specific dates, and we've been looking at those time periods. But just because we are right past that particularly last date does not mean we are out of the woods. We are still in this season. It's just like any other holiday. When people say, oh, we're in the holiday season, or around Thanksgiving, there is one day associated with it, but there's many, the whole season and time frame goes with that. And we also see it in a lot of the signaling that we've been looking at. Satan's kind of been implying the same thing, that he does not know the exact day or hour when things are really going to be unrestrained and let loose, but he apparently knows the time frame right around the days of Noah, which is still a very narrow area, and we see all the signals that he's been giving his disciples in the biblical time frame of the days of Noah too. So that is very interesting and should catch our attention, and I hope you are paying attention. Okay, so today we're going to look at even more things that just have happened in the past few days. Again, looking at the Economist cover, we've already seen and covered a lot, but we're going to see even more patterns that have been fulfilled in the past few days. Now, on the 7th was that mysterious rocket launch off the California coast that caught a lot of people's attention and made the media mention and everything, because it was definitely abnormal. But it's also interesting, I found out, that it was almost to the day that the missile launch back in 2010 was. And that made the news at the same time too, because nobody claimed responsibility for it. And a lot of people have taken it as a signal from China, basically a shot across our bow back in 2010. But it was on November 8th. And the rocket launch the other day was on November 7th. So it's very suspicious, the timing of these 2 highly visible missile launches. Also this week we've seen a lot of other suspicious things. For example, in the news the other day was the pyramids were highlighted, and emphasis on them of, we found an anomaly in the pyramids, and drawing attention to the pyramids, which, as you know, is very symbolic to the New World Order. They use it a lot in their symbology, but a lot of attention was drawn to it all of a sudden. And I've made references before in some of my articles of how it will tie into the end time deceptions probably too as well. But it's interesting, too, because that wasn't just the only mention of pyramids within a few days. A couple of days ago, the media brought attention to Ben Carson's unusual theory about the pyramids. And again, bringing this subject to the forefront, which is not a significant topic at all for the news, but they decided to bring it up. Why? Because they wanted to bring it to their attention. And it's interesting, he made the statement in this one interview, in about the 4th paragraph down. He says, and various of scientists have said, there were alien beings that came down and they have special knowledge, and that's how, it doesn't require an alien being when God is with you. It's interesting that he threw that out of the aliens building the pyramids, which is a very popular misconception. It's interesting he tied that to that, because that is going to play a part of Satan's end times deceptions, I think. So 2 times pyramids were pushed just within the past week. Very, very suspicious. And tying it to aliens too. Very suspicious. If something is said in mainstream media, it's done on purpose. This was said on purpose. Well, then jump to the 8th, the same day back in 2010 when that mysterious rocket launch happened. Well, on the 8th this year, the Navy launched a second missile test. So now we have 2 missile tests within 2 days. But it's interesting that in one article it says the submarine missile test came late Saturday after Defense Secretary Ashton Carter addressed a defense forum at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley about the U.S. adapting our operational posture and contingency plans to deter Russia's aggression. We do not seek a cold, let alone a hot war with Russia, he said in the forum. We do not seek to make Russia an enemy, but make no mistake, the United States will defend our interests, our allies, the principled international order, and the positive future it affords us all. Very fancy way of dropping the New World Order right in there. Very suspicious. But when we look back at the Economist cover, if you look at it, there are 2 rockets portrayed on the cover. So we should not be surprised that there are 2 significant rocket events, slightly separate. And there's the one, and then the rocket car could count as a second one. But then it's also interesting, the figure who ties them together, his head is practically touching the first missile launch, and then his foot is touching the second rocket launch. So this person is connected to both. It shouldn't surprise us then that on Monday, India successfully test-fired an unarmed Agni 4 intermediate range ballistic missile. So again, putting that in the media too. So that makes 3 prominent missile launches hinted at in a very close time frame from that cover. Very suspicious. But then what has CERN been up to? Well, today, the 11th, they announced the results from their photo walk. They held a kind of a photo contest, photographers around the place there. They announced these winners in today's news post. At first glance, it seems to be about a photo contest. Not very significant. But when we start reading it, some things quickly catch our attention. They picked 3 pictures to be the winning entries. Well, on the first one, they had a picture of someone who is dead from the past. And the second picture, they said, this picture brings us back to the present, with an example of the technologies and innovations that we see every day at CERN. So first they show a picture of the past. Then they clearly state this picture brings us to the present. This wording is very deliberate. Third picture, they said, this picture represents the link between the past and the present. Very, very suspicious. What else is going on? Well, today starts Diwali. It's the 5-day Indian festival of lights, celebrated by the Hindus, the Sikhs, the Jains, and the Buddhists around the world. This year, Diwali starts on Wednesday, November 11th, and ends the following Sunday. Now, according to some interpretations of Hindu tradition, Diwali marks the end of the exile period for Lord Rama, his wife Sita, and his brother Lakshmana. Lord Rama was exiled after killing Ravana, a demon king. After other Hindus celebrate Diwali as the day Lord Krishna defeated the demon something or other, or the day that Lord Vishnu banished demon King Bali to the netherworld. Hello people, a festival of lights that revolves around demon kings and the netherworld, the underworld, Hades. Just like the other Greek mythology references that I've been pointing to this time too, Pan and all that other stuff that we've been looking at very recently. But now, today kicks off the Festival of Lights. And do you remember what this year has been nicknamed? The International Year of Light by the UN. Does this seem coincidental to you? So, that's been kicked off. Well, 2 days ago, major news about China's smog. But it's very interesting when you look at the titling that they used in more than one article. China's dirty air just hit doomsday levels. And other articles were talking about how it's reached apocalyptic levels. And they're really underscoring that, making a message here. Remember, China's a big player on the cover too that we saw. And in fact, there's even a reference to that on that pattern. There's a pattern on the cover that says you should see and expect a major announcement about smog in China in this time period. And lo and behold, we have. And what is the warning accompanied with? Apocalyptic, apocalypse, doomsday. Are you getting the message yet? What else is going on? Yesterday, Britain's Prince Charles jokes with his wife Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, during a visit to Sheffield Winery in the Barossa Valley, Australia, Tuesday. And they're on a 6-day tour of Australia. But this is a very interesting picture. Again, a poppy from Remembrance Day. But if you're familiar with knives, you will instantly notice the symbolism with that knife and why she's holding it up so obvious for the camera to see. It's called Damascus steel. Damascus. Do you get the hint of what's coming real soon? Then on the 13th, coming up, supposedly a piece of space junk called WT-119OF is supposedly going to be falling near the Indian Ocean near Sri Lanka. So this is supposedly going to fall on Friday the 13th, and it has the number sequence in it 119. Going to be falling on Friday the 13th. Very suspicious. And it's getting a lot of attention, too, in the news. It's for something that's supposedly only 7 feet long and a piece of space junk. It's getting a lot of news. Why? Because it's a signal. Something's going to be falling. Well, in other news, yesterday it was announced that our president decided to be on a picture of a gay magazine, Out 100. And supposedly he's on it because he's an ally of different gay rights and all that stuff. No, it's a signal that he's gay. If you didn't know that already, you're not paying attention. But that's a very clear signal. Christian, wake up. If your president can be on the cover of a gay magazine called Out, and he's basically saying that the president is coming out as gay, how much longer do you think your country is going to be around? I got some news for you. You're not going to retire. Your kids aren't going to grow up and have grandkids and all that. No! Our country is heading to hell on full afterburners. Don't waste your time and life and energy and money and finances and talents on building a future that does not exist. If you think there's a future ahead of you and you're going to build and plant and do all that stuff that God said would be present in the days of Noah, if you're going to spend your time doing that, you are deluded and lying to yourself because you're not paying attention. And the Bible talks about those who understood the times knew what they should do. And if you're not paying attention, you won't know what you're supposed to do, and you're going to get caught up and involved with stuff that's going to waste your life and time and talents and opportunities. Pay attention and live in light of that. Live for God. Get close to God real quick because we are running out of time. Don't waste your life on stuff that Christ said is going to be present and the mindset that is going to be present in the days of Noah. A life goes on mentality. Life's not going on. They tell you it's going downhill really quick. Live like it. Unfortunately, this was also portrayed on the cover too in a way. President Obama there is pictured in association with the ghosts around this time period, but he's also associated with the Cheshire Cat, which is from Alice in Wonderland. And in the story, he can appear and disappear, come into sight and out of sight. I gather that it's a reference that President Obama is going to be coming out, becoming visible for who he really is. And he just did that yesterday. Why is President Obama at the very front of the cover, in front of all the other people? Because he's the scapegoat. He's the one meant to draw attention to. So you'll ignore everything else that's going on in the world and you'll think that he's the cause of all the problems in our country. No, he's the scapegoat. He's pushed to the front to capture all the attention. He's not the Antichrist and all the other hoopla. He's a puppet. Your government's fake. It's theater. It's all orchestrated. They put out the script and the program ahead of time, people. The American dream died long time ago. Okay, what else is going on? Well, today it was announced that the first trailer for Fox's X-Men The Apocalypse will happen to be shown when Star Wars The Force Awakens hits theaters in December. You think that's a coincidence? They're tying the two together. Again, look at the symbology. Don't worry about the timing. They're telling you Apocalypse is going to be attached and connected to The Force Awakens. These two ideas go together. And we've already seen a lot of the messaging from The Force Awakens in just the past few days. And a strong Apollyon reference. Apollyon, Apocalypse, hello, they go together. It's interesting though when we read articles about it. What is this movie about? Well, X-Men Apocalypse takes place 10 years after the events of X-Men, Days of Future Past. Okay, it is squaring off against the centuries-old mutant Apocalypse, Apollyon, who serves as the most formidable opponent yet when he assembles his 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. People, if you think this is just entertainment, you are seriously deluded. This is symbolism. It's a message. They're laughing at people who think it's just entertainment, because they're suckers. Well, what else happened today, too? Well, today NASA made a big announcement about Phobos, one of Mars' moons, and they just happened to make an announcement about, I think it's been eroded, blah, blah, blah. The actual content wasn't much, but the fact that they're bringing attention to Phobos right in this context of Apocalypse, Apollyon, and all that is very suspicious. Why? Because in classical Greek mythology, Phobos is more of a personification of the fear brought by war and does not really appear as a character in any of the myths. It's more of a personification of fear. The word phobia comes from Phobos, meaning fear. Phobos is also associated with the Greek deity Pan. We covered him too. Do you see how all this type messaging is very core message? War, fear, the nations are going to be perplexed, apocalypse, it's all coming, and we're on the threshold of it. What else is happening? Well, today Legos announced that they're coming out with a new Ghostbusters set. It'll be released in January, but that's irrelevant. But they made the announcement today, in context of everything else. Ghostbusters. Oh, and that also reminds us of the ghost that's on the cover. So surprise, surprise. But Ghostbusters. It's based on the movie Ghostbusters. What's the movie about? Well, it is interesting that the original script that they had for Ghostbusters, the vision was of traveling through time, space, and other dimensions to fight large ghosts, but that was deemed financially impractical, so they scaled it back. Again, that should catch your attention. But what the movie did end up being is about an apartment building haunted by a demonic spirit, Zul, who is a demigod, a half-man, half-god thing, worshipped as a servant to Gozer the Gozerian, a Sumerian shape-shifting god of destruction. The apartment building was designed as a gateway to summon Gozer and bring about the end of the world. That's what the movie's about. Basically, in other words, building a gateway to bring Apollyon, the destroyer, in to destroy the world. Do you think that's a coincidence? Time is very short, people. Part of the story also involves the crossing of energy streams of their proton packs, which reminds us of CERN, who accelerates, crosses, and collides protons. Why? To open a doorway for Shiva, Kali, Apollyon, whatever you want to call him, the destroyer. Are you paying attention? Do you understand the times? Are you letting it affect your life? Now, it doesn't matter if you have a head knowledge of all this stuff that's going on. Is it affecting your life? Are you casting off what needs to be cast off? Are you trimming off what needs to be trimmed off? Are you spending time in God's Word? Are you spending time talking with God? That's what's going to matter. And we can see what the enemy's up to, and they're busy, and they're fervent, and they're zealous for their agenda. And it appears like it's going to be coming about very soon. What about you? Do you see the day approaching, or are you blind? Romans 13:11-12. Knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. The night is far spent. The day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Matthew 25:6-7. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. Luke 17:32. Remember Lot's wife. Remember Lot's wife. She did not want to let go. She did not want to cast off. She did not want to trim her lamp. She loved this world more than she loved Christ. What about you? Be sober. Be vigilant. Be ye ready. Maranatha.